Alright guys, so now that we have our short block buttoned up, we can go ahead and move on to the next step. The one thing I want to add before we get started here, I forgot to mention when we were putting the crankshaft in. So this is a Gen 3 block right here. You have Gen 3 and Gen 4 LS blocks. The Gen 3 blocks came with a 24 tooth reluctor wheel. So there was 24 teeth on it. Being that I changed everything out, I went ahead and switched to a 58 tooth reluctor wheel. Now they say on high RPM applications, the 24 tooth would start to get confused kind of. So the 58 tooth is a better one. You probably don't need to switch it over, but being that I was already buying a new crankshaft and everything, I just went ahead and did it. The Gen 4 block also has the camshaft position sensor on the front timing cover. So the Gen 3s had it back here in this hole right here. So we have a Holley high ram intake that's going to go on top of here. It'd be real hard to go back in here and work on it if we ever needed to. So we ended up getting an ICT billet plug kit. So that'll go in here, plug this hole up, and then our sensor will now be on the front of our timing cover now. So it'll be right here. Alright, so we're back today, and it always seems like no matter what, no matter how much planning you do for your engine, there's always at least that one part that you always forget to order. And you gotta go ahead and order it and wait on it to finish. A lot of people normally forget the dowels for the head. Well, in my case, I forgot to get the key for the crankshaft. So, there's the part number. We had to wait for it to come in. We got it. We'll go ahead and install it, and we'll get back to adding more parts onto this thing. Okay, with our key now installed into our crankshaft, we are now ready to put our timing chain on. So first we're going to start with our lower timing gear. If you look on there, the inside set of teeth, we have 0, A2 through 8, and R2 through 8. So you have your 0 degrees, and you can advance your timing or you can retard your timing, go backwards. We're going to go ahead and just set it for 0 for now. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that keyway on 0 and we're just going to slide it on here. Line it up with our keyway on 0. Just push it in like so. And then we'll go ahead and move up to our top timing gear. Okay, we are now ready to put our timing chain on. This is the Comp Cam's double roller timing chain set. There's the part number right there. So we're going to put this on, and we're going to use our ARP bolts to tighten it down with. There's our part number for the ARP bolts. So the same thing is on the inside key set. You're going to have your 0, A2 through 8, and R2 through 8 for your timing. We're going to go ahead and line our 0 up in the 12 o'clock position, so we will be facing straight up. Now we're going to put this on. There's a little dot right there. We want it in the 6 o'clock position facing straight down so that that 0 will line up with that mark. We're going to turn our camshaft so our dowel lines up with our hole right there. And we'll go ahead and put it on. Pro tip, if you do this before you put the rear timing cover on, you can push on the back of the camshaft to help you get it lined up. So we'll go right there, get our chain on the bottom, get it lined up like so. We'll get one of our ARP bolts started in. As you will see, our 2 dots are lined up. We can go ahead and now torque these down. The OEM fasteners are 26 foot-pounds, but these ARP ones are 28 foot-pounds. Now that we have these bolts torqued down, we can go ahead and rotate the engine one full time and make sure that those 2 lines still line up. as you see right here, bam, bam, we are perfectly in line with each other, so we are good to go. Let's get on to installing the oil pump. We're now going to slide this on. Came with the timing chain set, so there's that. And we're now going to go ahead and put our oil pump on. We have the Moroso 22-120. It's the same thing as the Melling 10296 oil pump. So we're gonna go ahead and start our bolts in. We want to use these two washers that came with the timing chain set when we put our bolts in. So we'll go ahead and start our bolts in. When we slide this on, we want to line it up. Just like so. We'll go ahead, get that one going. Okay, so we've left our oil pump loose right here because we need to shim it. But before we do that, one thing we need to take care of first. Because we are using the double chain timing set with a stock front cover, I'll go put this on. As you can see, it does not sit flat. Our chain is hitting right here. Now this is where our bolt goes through for our camshaft sensor. We need to go ahead and grind this down just a little bit. You don't want to go too much because you will start digging into the threads where that bolt comes through. So you just want to take a little bit off by the edge, and we want to go ahead and keep checking it on there until it sits on there nice and flat. We'll go ahead and do this before we shim it just in case we need to knock down the supports a little bit. We shouldn't have too much, but we might have to take just a tad off of them. If we do have to do that, we're going to go ahead and remove it. That way we don't get any dirt or debris in the engine. So I'll go ahead and do that real quick and we'll be right back. Alright, so as I was clearancing out my timing cover, I noticed that the front corner of my timing chain was just ever so slightly rubbing on the back corner of my oil pump right there, as you can see. So what I did, I pulled it off, made sure that my oil pump gear drive was seated correctly, made sure that wasn't the problem, and I put it back on, and it was still rubbing just ever so slightly. So what I'm going to do is I took it back off again, taped it all up, and I'm just going to hit that corner slightly just to give us a little bit extra clearance and make sure. We'll go ahead and do that, clean it up real good, put the oil pump back on, and then I'll get the cover on and I'll show you guys the clearance that we did, and we'll go from there. Okay, so we have our cover on. I just have two bolts up here just holding it in place so it doesn't fall off. As you can see, now we are nice and flat. It doesn't wobble anywhere or move around. And as you can see here, we have plenty of movement up and down and back and forth. So let me go ahead and pull this off real quick and I'll show you the timing chain. As you can see here, we also have lots of clearance now between our timing chain and our oil pump. So we will be good there. Hopefully you can see that. But it doesn't rub anymore, so we're good with that now. Now, as far as the front cover goes, I end up having to clearance out right around here and right around here. And if you're running the 4th gen pan, this is the boss for your camshaft sensor to go in on that side. You just have to grind that down a little bit so it doesn't hit the chain. You don't want to grind too much off or else that hole will start protruding through. So you want to make sure you leave enough meat up here for the hole. So right there, there, and up top. If you guys are doing this like from scratch from the beginning, I would just go ahead and buy one of the pans that's already clearanced out for this setup, or just run an LS2 timing chain instead of going with the double roller one. But this wasn't too bad. It ended up working out. I need to clean up all this red paint still. So just put it on there, clearance it a little bit, put it on there, see where it fits, take it off, and just keep doing it until it sits on there nice and flat. Okay, now with our timing cover figured out and out of the way, we can go ahead and shim our oil pump. Now, this is a very controversial thing. Some people say that you don't need to do it, you never need to do it, and other people act like if you don't do it, your engine's going to blow up. I don't know which one's true, maybe both, maybe neither, but for as long as it takes, I'm going to go ahead and do it. So what we're going to do is we have our feeler gauges, we have a 2 thou and a 2.5 thou. And what we're going to do is we want to center this gear up in the housing. Now, theoretically, it should center itself up because it is free floating. That's what a lot of people that argue that you don't need to do it say. But what we're going to do is we're going to slide our feeler gauge in between our outer gear and our pump housing. We're going to put one on the top. Like so. And we'll go ahead and put one on the bottom. Just like so. And now that those are in there, we can go ahead and torque our bolts down to 18 foot-pounds and put our front cover back on, and that will be 106 inch-pounds. Inch-pounds. Remember, inch-pounds, not foot-pounds. Okay, so we went ahead and made sure we cleaned up the front cover nice, make sure there's no aluminum dust left over inside. I went ahead and put it on there with the gasket, put the cam sensor back in, and as you can see, all of our bolts are in and started, but we left our 2 out on top, and that is because we're going to be running the Motion Raceworks fuel regulator bracket. So we'll go ahead, take these out, and it comes with 2 longer bolts, and we'll go ahead and get that in right up top. Okay, so now our front cover's on. Normally what you would do is, this does not have dowels like your short block Chevys do. This timing cover is located off of your crank snout. So what you want to do is you want to either put an alignment tool or your balancer in there to center this timing cover up with that. My balancer is not here yet. It's the only thing I'm waiting on for this engine that hasn't shown up yet. So for now, I just snug the bolts down and we'll go ahead and just leave it like that for now. When that comes in, we'll go ahead and center it up. But while we have the engine block like this, we're going to go ahead and mount our water pump brackets on. So for this setup, we are going to be using a remote electric water pump. So what we're going to do is we have these nice brackets from Motion Raceworks. Part numbers right there. We're going to go ahead and put these on right here. And what this will do is we'll have 2 fittings that run into here, and they will run to our water pump located somewhere else in the engine bay. So we'll go ahead and get these put on next. Lastly, before we flip the engine block over, because we end up moving our camshaft sensor up onto the front of the timing cover, and this is a Gen 3 block, we need to plug our old hole. So we have our ICT billet kit. So we'll go ahead and put a little assembly lube on our O-ring right there. Drop it down in there. And then we will slide our bracket on, just like so. Give it a little push, like so. Put our bolt on. And just give it just a little bit of torque. Right there, that's all you need. And then lastly, we will go ahead and install our oil pressure sensor. There's our part number right there, and it'll go just right there. So now with all that out of the way, we can go ahead and start getting our oil pan on. So we'll start with our windage tray. One thing to note, if you are using the ARP studs, you do need to open up a couple of these holes right here with a step drill. So we'll go ahead and we'll set that on there like so. Now, one thing to check, because this is a stroker motor with a longer stroke, we need to check and make sure our rod bolts are not hitting our windage tray. And you'll see, if we turn our motor over a couple times, we are scraping on it. As you'll see right there. So what we'll go ahead and do is put a couple washers in between, right on top of our studs right here, in between our windage tray, and hopefully that'll lift us up just enough to clear all of our rod bolts. We've went ahead and installed 3 washers onto the top of all of our studs, and as you can see, go ahead and slide this back on. We now clear. We don't hit anywhere. And I will show you right here. As you can see in there, we have plenty of clearance. Make sure we're not hitting anything. Now we can go ahead and tighten our windage tray down, and we'll be good with that. Okay, I went ahead and installed the pickup tube off camera. Nothing too crazy. Bolt there, one in your oil pickup. But the one thing I wanted to show, I took the cover off to put this on, but the factory pickup tube has 1 bolt here. So 1 bolt, you put it in and tighten it down. All oil pumps have the 2 bolts right here, the bolt holes right here. I don't know why GM doesn't have one here. So I went ahead and added this oil pickup brace. This is the Improved Racing. You can see the part number on there, EGM-500. And what it does is it pulls that side down, so that way you do not have to worry about it kicking up like this and losing oil pressure and anything like that. So we have one more step before we're ready to put the oil pan on, and I'll go ahead and show you guys that next. Okay, the one last step we want to do before we put our oil pan on is we want to check our pickup tube to the bottom of our oil pan clearance. Melling says you want 3/8 to 1/2 inch gap between right here. If you go too low, you won't have enough room to suck up the oil, and if you are too far away, you run the risk of starving your engine of oil. So I think the easiest way to check that is we'll go ahead and put a piece of tape over it, and then we'll just take a piece of Play-Doh or clay or anything like that. We'll put it on there, just like so. And then we'll grab our oil pan and our gasket. just like this. We'll go ahead and set it down on there gently. And we'll just give it, push down on it nice and firm. Alright, sorry about that, my camera died on me, but we end up having just the right amount of clearance on our pickup tube. I went ahead and put the oil pan on and just hand tighten it down. It's still a little loose because once again we're still waiting on that front balancer to line everything up, so I didn't go ahead and tighten it down yet. So we can do a couple more things before we flip it over and start on the rear cover and lifters. As you can see here, I have drilled, tapped, and welded 2 fittings in right here. This is going to be our turbo drain. Now we're just running a single turbo, so I only need one of these, but the reason I went ahead and put one on each side is because, one, I'm not exactly sure what side of the block my turbo is going to be sitting on yet, so I wanted to have the ability to be able to put it on either side. And then also, if we ever decide to switch over to twin turbo, we already have a drain for our other side, so we can just go ahead. We'll cap both of these for now until we get it in the car and get our turbo ready. I have 2 caps to put on there, so we can do that. I'll go ahead and put the oil filter on, and also right here the oil pan comes with a block off plate. You see that went on there. I went ahead and took it off because our turbo drains will be there, and for our turbo feed we're going to end up running this Motion Race Works, there's the part number, oil feed plate. So this will bolt on there just like that. There's an internal O-ring on the back, so we don't have to worry about that gasket that fell off over there somewhere. So we just go ahead and bolt that on. As you can see, we have 2 holes. We can run our feed off of one, and we can run a sensor off the other if we want, or we can just leave it plugged. So we'll go ahead and put this, the oil filter, and the 2 caps on our drain, and then we'll be good to go. Okay, so we went ahead and pulled our engine off the stand. As you can see here, I'm holding it up with the cherry picker, and then I just have a lift card under it to help support it. Now we can go ahead and put our rear cover on while it's off the stand, right there. So whenever we go to put our cover on, we have a couple options we can go with. So option 1, we can take our stock rear cover. While it's out, I highly recommend replacing the seal right here, your rear seal. So you can go ahead and buy a rear seal and gasket kit for, I don't know, about 20-ish bucks. And then you can go ahead and buy your seal installer tool for, I don't know, maybe another 20-ish bucks also. You go ahead and press it in. It's not super hard to press in there, but it's just something else to do. Then if you need bolts, add your bolts into the price of that. So we're at, I don't know, 40, 50 bucks to use your stock cover-ish. Or you can spend 70 bucks and just get the whole brand new kit. It comes with a new gasket, new cover, the seal's already installed, we don't have to do it, new bolts. So we're going to go ahead and put this one on. I'm just going to do it without filming it. It's pretty straightforward. Put it on, line up off the center of your crank, tighten all your bolts down. All of our bolts back here will be tightened down to 18 foot-pounds. Then you have your 2 long bolts that go through your oil pan into the bottom here. These will be 106 inch-pounds. So let's go ahead and throw that on and then get it back up on the stand, and we can go ahead and put all of our lifters in next after that. Okay, so we have our rear cover on back there. As you can see, it's centered up on our crankshaft. Everything's torqued down, worked out well. We put the block back on the stand, and we can now move on to our lifters and lifter trays. As you can see, there's already one in right here. What we're going to do is just take your lifter tray. These are LS7 lifters. You want to let them set in oil for at least 24 hours before you put them in, I believe. Some people don't, but I've always been told that you're supposed to let them sit. So we let these sit overnight last night, and we can go ahead and put them in now. So they'll just snap into your lifter trays like that. The flats will be facing top and bottom right there. You'll have 4 per tray. And then I always say buy new trays whenever you're doing this because, I mean, they're cheap and all you need is 4. There's the part number from GM right there. So all you do is you just take them, snap 4 of them, 4 of your lifters into the bottom, take it over your block, Get it lined up, maybe. Push it down in there, just like that. And then you got one bolt that goes right there. I went ahead and got new bolts too. And screw that in. We'll go ahead, put the other two in, and torque these bolts down. I don't remember what the torque spec is off the top of my head, but we'll just put them all four in, torque them down, and then we'll be good to go there. Okay, so we have our lifter trays in there and got everything tightened down. These bolts end up being 106 inch-pounds. So next we can go ahead and move on to our valley cover. Now the stock valley cover on the Gen 4 motors have a recess counter board down in there, and then your knock sensors will go in there. And we're going to be putting the Holley high ram on top, so it's really going to be hard to get down in there if we ever got to do anything to them. So we're going to relocate them. And I know on my first Camaro I had that you would get dirt and stuff down in those counter boards, and it was just a pain to deal with. So we're going to go ahead and run the ICT billet valley cover. As you can see, it's just a flat piece of aluminum plate. I've already went ahead and painted it. I'm going to sit on there like that. We're going to go ahead and bolt it on for now. We're not going to tighten it up though. We'll have to put the lifting plate back on whenever we go to put this in the motor. But we're just going to bolt this on for now to get it, mocked up and to help keep any dirt or anything from getting in the motor. So we'll line that up just like so. And then it comes with nice countersunk bolts. So we'll put those in and we'll just snug it all down. Okay, now that our valley cover's on, we need to find somewhere to relocate our knock sensor to. So what we have here is we have the ICT billet relocation kit. So this will be the passenger side of the block. This one, we'll go ahead and mount it in this hole right here. So this boss will sit in this hole, and then we'll run a bolt down through the bottom, just like this. We'll go ahead and get a ratchet and tighten that up. But now we can run a knock sensor. We can run it here. There's two holes down here to run it, or we can run it right here. So that gives us options whenever we go to mount our wiring harness and figure out where we want to put it, and if our headers are in the way and anything like that. So let's go ahead and probably set it just like that for now, or we'll probably, I'll tell you what, we'll probably actually put it in this back hole right here, just like so. So we'll tighten it down and it'll sit in there just like so. Then we can run our wiring harness just straight back like this, and that might work pretty well. And if it doesn't work, we have options. We can always move it, and we have other holes here we can kind of finagle around with and get it where we want it. So this is the passenger side. We'll go ahead and move over to the driver's side after we tighten this down, and I'll show you what we're going to do over there. Okay, for this side, I think what we might do for now is go ahead and mount it up here like this, maybe. There's paint in this hole. I need to clean the threads out before I actually tighten it down. But if we sit in there like this, same thing, we have a tapped hole on each side and two on the bottom. We could flip it around. Oh, then your motor mounts are going to hit, possibly. We don't have enough room to get in here. So probably what we'll do for now is just do that. We'll tighten it down right there. We'll screw it into this second hole right here. And we'll run our knock sensor right about there. If that doesn't work, we can always drill and tap one of these pads out and mount it here, here, or even possibly back here. Do it upside down, face it in between here. So we'll go ahead and just put it right here for now. If that doesn't work, we can always move it later or change something, or we have options for the future. But for now, we'll just tighten it up and we'll put that side right there. So we'll go ahead and get those tightened up and we'll move on to the next thing. Lastly, we'll go ahead and put our camshaft position sensor in. So it just goes in this hole right here, and then we'll put a bolt in that little tab, tighten it down. So it just goes in just like that. There's an O-ring, so you gotta push on it a little bit. There, you heard it click into place. We'll just take our bolt, thread it in. Alright, and we're good there. Alright, we're going to go ahead and end the video there. As you saw, we've made some pretty good progress on this thing, so we're starting to get somewhere. So we'll go ahead and end it there, and in the next video, we're going to go ahead and start getting the heads ready. These are 823 LS casting heads, and I want to try and leave the natural aluminum finish on them. So in the next video, we'll go ahead and take them apart, soda blast them, do a nice little valve job on them, change out our springs, and start assembling them and getting them ready to put on the motor. So that'll do it for today. Thank you guys for watching. Take care.